Congress is doing insider trading on these things and making a boatload of money, while these people create these systems that are designed to make money during times of conflict and war. Take out a policy loan, invest in a rental property. Now it's earning money in two places because the money doesn't actually come out of the cash value. It's still in there generating 4 to 5% a year, while the rental property is earning maybe 10 to 13%. Some people took the red pill and we're awake now. We're looking into things like never before. We're actually researching, studying, not trusting the media, the science, and other people just went further into sleep.
All right, hey everyone, welcome back to Remnant Finance. We got a first for you today. This is going to be, I believe, our first client interview with Captain Jonathan Wright, Air Force fighter pilot, call sign Bundy. We're going to talk through his background. We're going to talk through the mandate, which is how we met. We're going to talk through IBC, life currently, military experience, post-military experience. But yeah, I'm really excited about this because we've talked with a lot of people that are strategists or have specific areas of financial service, and we've had things that we've offered to clients. But I've always liked in other podcasts, like our friend Dave and Paul at Wealth Warehouse, where they have clients that come on the podcast and discuss their experience. I think that also provides a lot of value as well, to get it from the perspective of someone who is implementing these principles in their own life. So, Bundy, welcome to the program. I like your shirt there. You're repping there. I like it.
Yeah, I've got a rep Remnant. You know,
awesome, man.
It's been a
tell us a little bit of background on your, just give us a little bio before we dive into IBC stuff.
Cool. Well, you introduced me as a captain. I just put on major this week, so
there you go. There you go.
Big bump in pay. I don't know about responsibility. We'll figure that out. But
Nice.
I'll take the extra pay for sure. But yeah, just a little background. So I've been a client with you guys since 2023. So about coming up on 4 years now. I've listened to like every single one of your guys' podcasts. So 110 now is what I'm counting.
You're 111.
Yep, should be 111. So pretty honored to be on this show here. Some good stuff talked about there. And obviously everything you guys say resonates with me because I'm a fellow military insurrectionist. With you guys.
There you go.
Just praying for Brian out
An
there.
Extremist.
On the spear there. Yeah, I love what you guys are doing. Just providing that financial education, readiness, and peace. I don't know if that's trademarked by Rave Damsey, the financial peace part. But yeah. And then just you guys are like continuing to grow with Remnant Frontier, which is super exciting. I'm like pretty pumped for that. So
thanks.
Some cool stuff coming, sounds like.
Yeah.
Also let me get my own life insurance license because I was so like pumped about it and just wanted to be a part of it and just like help people get into this system. So there is that. As far as my background, I'm trying to condense my entire life into about 5 minutes here. So I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee. I was homeschooled up through the 5th grade. So just read a lot of books and do a lot of curriculums, kind of self-led, self-taught kind of stuff, which was good for me because I was pretty, I would say, ahead of my peers as far as intelligence at that time. So it was good to just be able to like go at my own pace and not get held back by people who were slowing the class down. So that was good. And then we went to private Christian school when I was in 6th grade up through 12th grade. Fun fact there, in 9th grade, I was actually in a class with Morgan Wallen. We have the same right next to each other in the yearbook. So there's my little claim to fame there.
And this is all in Knoxville whole time?
Yeah, Knoxville.
Cool.
Parents still live there. My brothers and sisters. So I have 2 brothers and a sister. One older brother. He's 2 years older than me. A brother who is 7 years younger than me, and then a sister who's 9 years younger than me. So pretty split.
Big spread.
Yeah, big spread there, which is kind of interesting. And then my younger brother had cancer when he was 2. So that was like, the big wrench got thrown in our family there. So that was tough for my parents for sure, working through that. But he made it. He's still with us. He just turned 26. So good to go there. And then let's see, some notable stuff that I did. I was in Scouts, and I made it all the way up to Eagle Scout. So a lot of hiking, camping, being out in the woods. It's kind of like where I like to be. not as much of that anymore because, you know, I have 3 kids now, which I'll talk about. And I live in
And you
Las
live in the
Vegas.
desert.
Yeah. It's 112 degrees out every day right now, so it makes it difficult.
112?
Yeah, it was 112 yesterday.
Oh, that's brutal.
Vegas.
We've been saying peak summer here. Like it finally feels like summer, and that means it's been hitting the low 80s.
Yeah.
With no humidity. So it's
ridiculous.
funny when my cousin came in from Dallas last week, or a couple weeks ago, and it was 114 there, and he was like, "This is amazing," and I'm thinking in my head like, "Sorry, man, you came at the worst time of the year. It's just so hot right now." He's like, "It's
okay.
paradise."
Yeah, it would literally
that's
feel
brutal.
loud, I'm sure, if we came there. We got to make it back out there, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, moving on. Went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, Daytona Beach from 2011 to 15. My dad actually went there back in the 80s, so just kind of following in his footsteps there. He flew the F-16, the Viper, as someone would know it by, or the Fighting Falcon, however you want to reference it. So it was always my kind of dream to fly fighters, and specifically the F-16, because I thought it was this pretty awesome jet.
Yeah.
And I saw this like IMAX thing when I was a kid. It was all about red flag, and it just like I was like, that's what I want to do. So.
And what's red flag for our non-military audience?
Yeah, it's just this giant, large force exercise with like every single jet in our arsenal, basically, just all coming out to Nevada, or there's some in Alaska as well, and just putting up 100 to 150 jets sometimes to create this basically war zone type scenario where you have red air, which is like people pretending to be other countries that we would fight against, and then you have blue air who are Americans who are doing American tactics and just like honing our tactics and getting better as a team.
Is it mostly dogfighting, or is it like ground targeting, that kind of stuff too?
It's typically long range. You start at pretty far distances, and then they're trying to take down surface to air missile systems and specific like dynamic targets that they're trying to strike is the scenario. And then the red air. So what I do right now, which I'll get to, but they're trying to prevent the blue air from achieving their mission there. So they're just putting up jets and shooting missiles back and forth. It's pretty sweet. A lot of lessons learned there. Always a good time.
Is it equivalent to so I'm obviously more familiar with like the Top Gun program on the Navy side, which is in Fallon, where the squadrons will send a detachment to get proficient on weapons and tactics, procedures, that kind of thing. Is it sort of similar? Like every squadron sends a det to participate and learn and get evaluated, or is it more just like for the sake of measuring performance of the jet? Like, is it like a pilot instructional focus, or is it more aircraft, just learning the aircraft and figuring out how to improve on the product and acquisition side?
Yeah, it's 100% like almost like a spin up or a training for squadrons, and it's like they are the customers, so the squadrons are the ones coming, and then like their patches, or like their Top Gun equivalent patches, it's called the weapons school in the Air Force, are giving us their like what they want to get out of it, and then we try to tailor it to their desired learning objectives to get the best training that they can get. A lot of people come right before they're about to deploy just to get that last like look, to get trained up before they go. So it's a pretty big deal.
But going back to Embry-Riddle, so you graduate, you fly in college because it's an aeronautical university, right?
Yeah, I flew a little bit on the side, not as an official Embry-Riddle flying, because that's like 10 grand a year, which was ridiculous. I just flew with like a little company called Air America, I believe is what it was called. Just flying a little Cessna 152, sometimes the 172 when I can afford it. But the 152 is a bit cheaper. Just flying around Daytona Beach and doing some cross country stuff. So it's pretty awesome. Got like 20 hours doing that. And then just to kind of help out my score with getting a pilot slot, because hours do help.
Yeah.
So I finished out school.
Did you do ROTC there?
Yeah, I did ROTC. It's one of the largest debts in the nation, so tons of cadets.
We had a couple of guys in my initial like first stages of flight school that were Embry-Riddle guys.
Yeah.
That went Navy. Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
super great place to go if you're trying to go ROTC and trying to get a pilot slot, because it's right like it's right below the academy as far as like percentages of who gets what they want, basically. So
Yeah.
pretty competitive there, and it's like a great location, Daytona Beach. You obviously have like the Carnival Cruise areas of the beach there that you want to avoid, but there's also really nice places to go.
Yeah.
Good men hollering and getting your stuff stolen and whatnot.
Yeah,
But
you get mugged down by the Carnival Cruise.
just fights breaking out, people pulling out guns. Yeah.
I can see you twerking on a Honda Civic. I can
Yeah,
picture
yeah.
it.
Yeah, I could fit right in.
Oh, all right. So
Um,
you commissioned in the Air Force and start flight school. What's flight school path like for y'all?
Yep, commissioned in 2015. I actually got selected to go to it's called ENJJPT, Euro NATO Joint Jet Pilot Training in Shepherd Air Force Base, which is in Wichita Falls, Texas. And that specifically, there's 4 pilot training bases: Vance, Columbus, Laughlin, and Shepherd. This one is like 100%, like you will go to the T-38, which is a fighter trainer, and you will compete to be a fighter pilot. So it's pretty like tailored and specific there. Whereas the other bases, you could go fly heavies and go the T1 route, which I think is going away, but that used to be the case. So I went there with the specific, like, I want to be a fighter pilot. I want to fly the F-16. So went there. It's also a NATO. So we had Germans, Italians, and Turkish guys in my class. The Turkish guys got sent home because there was a coup at the time. 2016 to 17, there was that big Turkish coup where they were like, just like executing people. A couple of the guys like claimed asylum somewhere in like Canada or Mexico or somewhere. It was crazy. But that was super cool to get to fly with those guys and just like kind of realize like, hey, these German guys are like just like us, like same age. They're just like us. They're bros. I'm like, you kind of like think what it'd be like in World War II, like going up against these guys. Like they're just like you, you know.
We had
That was
sorties in our class. The
Yeah.
Navy, I don't know if you guys do too, but we had a lot. We had every class in API, like the very first stage of flight school for us would, not every class, but a lot of them would have a Saudi pilot, and just
Yeah.
getting to see some of that program. Like, I didn't have the same experience as as flying with a German guy and being like, this guy's just like us. Like these guys would come over, buy a Rolls Royce just to crash it, buy a Ferrari. They'd buy out like, you know, it was fun having them in our class because they would just buy out the entire bar, you know, on a Friday night in Pensacola,
Rich.
like just obscenely just throwing away money. And they were terrible pilots. Like they were so bad. And so
Yeah.
if you had one as like your on-wing partner, you're like, well, I guess I'm doing all the work and we're still going to fail because these guys just don't care. The Saudi government just kind of plucks them out of a royal family, pays an
Yeah.
obscene amount of money to the government, gives them an unlimited paycheck, and then just tells them like, come back when you're trained. And so they just don't get. They were awful, but
Yeah.
awful as pilots. I mean, cool as bros, but awful as pilots.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
I mean, that's kind of speaks to like, it's well known that those guys aren't able to take criticism because they're so high up and, you know, they're from royal families. And like,
Yeah.
just backstory, like one of the things that makes America so great, like their fighter pilots so good, is like the openness and transparency to like say when you messed up and then to be able to
Yeah.
take criticism is like that. That's like the number one thing I think that a trait of a fighter pilot that just like you can't not have that and be a good fighter pilot. So yeah, it's not surprising that they're terrible. But yeah, like Italians, Germans, super good. The Turkish guys are actually pretty good too. Just yeah, different cultures for sure. Anyway, coming out of that, I did well enough. I did get selected to go fly the F-16. Went through IFF, which is Intro to Fighter Fundamentals, and then there was a waiting period of 9 months before I could start F-16 training. So it was kind of like, man, I got to wait now for almost a year to start. Right at about that time, the EA-18G, the Growler, which is a modded Super Hornet, basically just modded to be able to jam or like put out tons of like electronic energy into radars to where they can't see, is kind of the idea behind that. There was a couple slots that opened up to be the first Air Force pilots to go fly those. I asked, where are they flying out of? They said Whidbey Island, Washington. I looked it up. I was like, okay, that's super beautiful, awesome place.
Yeah, pretty cool looking.
And then I was like, what's a Growler? So I looked up, I literally had to Google Growler to even know what it was. And I was like, oh, it's an F-18. So
Yeah.
long story short, I took that assignment.
what was the purpose for the Air Force doing that? Like they're not introducing Growler squadrons in the Air Force, are they? Is it to learn the EA mission or the or the what's it? I'm trying to remember. We had my helicopter was similar as far as the jamming,
Yeah.
the radar, the surface search, putting out the energy. We were like
Yeah.
the smaller range, but we were more the shipborne version of that effectively. So
Yeah.
kind of familiar with the mission set, but what was the role? What was the reason the Air Force was doing it?
So it was kind of two parts. I think the Air Force is interested in owning Growlers. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but there is an interest there of like having a dedicated, have a high value asset electronic attack platform that's also a fighter. Right now, we're just integrating with the Navy to achieve that, which is kind of the second part of that is just getting that electronic attack experience into the combat Air Force by sending. They send a lot of WISOs already, so backseaters, mostly strike equal backseaters to go do it, but now pilots to go get that experience and then integrate with the Navy, build relations there, and then bring that experience back to whatever airframe you go to next, so that we can work better as a joint team, if you will.
So you opted to do this 3-year tour in Whidbey to fly Growlers instead of training, like starting the F-16 pipeline. Did that take you out of F-16s? Was that like a fork in the road kind of thing, or was it just a way to kind of cover down?
Yeah, that was the kicker. Is like you're going to give up F-16s to go fly the Growler. So they gave me 24 hours to make a decision. I talked to my dad about it. He was like, "Oh man, the Viper's so cool. You should go fly it." But it was just such a cool, like, unique opportunity. I was like, I'm not going to say no. So it did take me out of the F-16. I've never flown it to this day. So whatever. It was an awesome experience. I was there from 2017 to 2020. I did 2 deployments, one to Qatar, Udeid Air Force Base. My other claim to fame there is there's an article written about me where I'm the first ever Air Force pilot to fly the Growler in combat, which is, whatever. But it was like one of those cool things.
What does that entail? So you're doing kind of battle space and jamming and signals. It's not actually, like, they don't really dogfight in a Growler, right? Which no one really dogfights.
No, it has the capability, but it's not like the number one priority of the Growler, obviously. For what we were doing, we were there from 2018 to 19, kind of fighting ISIS at the time, doing a lot of comm jamming. So jamming their comms, and then we could also broadcast on their radios. So we would bring a bunch of MP4 files or WAV files to like broadcast. We were supposed to broadcast propaganda, but instead we broadcasted Avenged Sevenfold, just a bunch of like music so that we could also, because you could listen to it at the same time, and you'd be out there for 3 hours just capping broadcasting. So instead of listening to Arabic for 3 hours, we're just listening to whatever music we want to while also jamming their comms. So yeah, that was kind of cool.
That's fascinating.
But yeah, the mission there was just, we would fly 2.5 to about 3 hours up to Syria, cap for about 3 hours. We were hitting tankers every hour, an hour and a half, and then just coming back. So it'd be all in all about 8 hours for a flight. My longest was an 8.8 hour flight, just sitting in the seat. Got to use the bathroom up there. I mean, you got to eat, like all this stuff you got to do in this tiny little cockpit about the size of this chair. I mean, it's kind of brutal.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
You get kind of used to it.
I've done an 8-hour flight before, but
yeah,
we can land. We'd have to like typically a 3-hour bag. So if we do an 8.0, which was not regular, but it wasn't uncommon, I'd say, we would have to do 2 deck hits, and for us, getting gas meant landing on a destroyer, and so you could stretch your legs and hop out. But I can't imagine 8 hours in the same seat. That's brutal.
Yeah, 8 hours, and then to get gas, you're just colliding with another jet. Basically, the boom comes out and you connect to it. So
you and Brian might have met at some point.
Yeah, we might have. Yeah, he might have been over there. I know some guys who were. My most memorable flight was Christmas Day. Flew an 8.7-hour flight over Afghanistan, doing basically nothing. It's like, why am I here? But Afghanistan's cool to fly over. Yeah, it's got a lot of big mountains and cool stuff to see. So, that was that. They also give you those Go pills, which I don't know if people know about, but they give you basically methamphetamine to take
Yeah.
in case you're getting tired in the jet. You just pop one of those and you're like, man, I'm good to go. So that was
And they
kinda
work.
crazy.
They work, right? I mean, I haven't.
Oh yeah, they work. I don't use them anymore because I'm kind of anti-pharma and I don't like taking drugs. But back then I didn't really care too much. So.
Yeah. Pre 2020, a lot of things are different for all of us.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it was a big transition. I'm sure we'll get into that. But my last
Well,
thing
one
in
more
the Growler
question.
was, oh yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, yeah. Finish up.
I just deployed to Misawa, which is in Japan. So not really a deployment, more of like a good time, good deal. Eating a lot of sushi, ramen, just having a good time. So that kind of closed out the Growler phase. I know you had a question.
So you make this decision. You get 24 hours. You're like childhood, lifelong dream of F-16s. Do I take that path and have kind of an unknown timeline, or do something really cool but totally different that's going to close this other door? Obviously, you chose that door, but when you let's go back, like you make that decision. All right, I'm going to commit. I'm going to do this Growler. What at the time? What did your? Of course, you could not have predicted what has happened since, right? Like the winding road to get where we both are right now looks very different. I mean, you outlasted the Air Force, and so like it's not right now what you're doing. You're kind of back on a course, but pretty winding way to get there. Myself, obviously, totally unrecognizable path than I would have thought at this same point in my career. So when you make that decision and you say, okay, I'm closing the door on the F-16s, I'm going in the Growlers, did that look like I have 3 years here with the Growlers and then I go somewhere else in the Air Force? Or is it like you think, are you thinking you'll be a Growler pilot for life? Or is this just a one-time deviation and then you're going to hop on a different fighter in the Air Force at some capacity?
Yeah,
What would you have said the future looks like at that point?
Yeah, so going into it, I knew for a fact it was a 3-year assignment, no more. I mean, I'm sure you could find a way to stay in if you wanted to. 3-year assignment with the guarantee. It wasn't really a guarantee. It was like a very likely that you'll go to a 5th gen platform afterwards, which would look like F-22 or F-35. So I kind of knew going in, like, if I take this door, which it is like a door that just opened up out of nowhere, which I believe in taking most of the time because those are just happenstance to me. They're like divine providence in my mind. That like if a door just opens, like there's a reason it opened. You should probably.
Wow. That's why I'm here doing this. That's why we're talking.
Yeah, exactly. Like think and pray about like what this door is and whether you should walk through it, which is why I just was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. This is crazy.
So
like that.
Okay, so it's not as it's like all right, I'm giving up F-16s, but I'm not giving up fighters. Like I'm gonna be in arguably a more, I mean, cooler is not the right word. Like if you love the F-16, and I don't know, I know that like the F-22 community has got a very strong reputation, not a great one from what I've heard as far as like the character or like the attitude of the pilots, but it's obviously it's again from a military aviation but not fighter specific perspective. From what I've heard, it seems like the F-22 is the pinnacle fighter jet on most fronts. But of course, I do want to ask you about the different types of jets and like what your opinion is of them. But it wasn't like, all right, I'm never going to fly an Air Force fighter jet. It's just I'm never going to fly the F-16 specifically. Okay, so that's okay.
I mean, I could have flown the F-16 after, but at that point, it's like, why not go fly the F-35 now? I mean, it's much more capable. All the money's pouring into it. It's just it makes sense to go do that.
Okay. Well, while we're here, let's just talk about the jets because I think that's pretty cool for most people that are not in the fighter jet community. Like, so my perspective, you know, I am only familiar with 18s, and again, only familiar as in like deployed with them on the carrier and stuff.
Yeah,
flown myself, right? But like in the Navy, it's just the 18 and now the 35, and the 35 was being introduced as I was in my, you know, exodus, my exile phase from the Navy. So I'm mainly just familiar with 18s, and 18s seem very cool. But 35s seem like kind of a train wreck, but cool if they work. F-22s seem like the most tactical, lethal jet there is, and the F-16 seems like the old bros club. Like this is the cool old school jet that like everyone loves it. Everyone loves the community, but it itself maybe not the most capable of the fighters. How you've flown? I guess you haven't flown the 16 or the 22, but you've flown the 18 and the 35. But you're familiar with all of them, and you know the communities inside and out. So what Give us those a breakdown of those four.
Yeah, so you have to go back to history. Like there's the F-15C and then there's the F-16. The F-15C is the air dominance fighter. Like they have like 104 to 0 kill to death ratio. I mean, just absolutely dominant in the air to air space. Air to ground, non-existent. So from the F-15C, you have the F-22, which is now the new air dominance fighter. It is basically the replacement of the F-15C. So yeah, as far as air to air goes, like the Raptor is the pinnacle of air to air. And they kind of have that mindset of like, we're the best, we're the pinnacle, like everyone else is beneath us. And it's kind of well known among the C model, the F-15C model community, that they're like eagles. It's the F-15C eagle. The eagles eat their young, and they kind of just, a lot of people get out of that community because they just get treated poorly.
It's still an active, like they're still flying 15s, or is it?
Yeah, they are.
Replaced?
Yeah,
they're kind of like
slowly getting rid of them.
Okay,
it's still getting flown. Yeah, they're going away in a lot of places and then being replaced. But
so are people in the F-15s? Is it like your goal is to jump to the 22 because that's the next? That's like how you're going to survive in the air-to-air fighter community, or is it people just love the 15 and I'm just going to stay here? And or you said a lot of people get out, but like
a lot of people are getting out and either going to the Raptor. It's kind of like the logical next step.
The 22,
but it's still a lot of people are going to the 35 because it's the best community, to be honest, right now. So on the other side of the aisle is the F-16, which is the Wild Weasel mission, which is basically first in, last out, like go in there, destroy a bunch of surface to air missiles, doing a bunch of maneuvers and dropping bombs and then defending and getting out, which is what the F-35 kind of took over as like it's the jack of all trades airframe, just like the F-16. Like it does everything, air to air, air to ground. So there's just a ton of stuff that you have to like learn and be good at all at the same time, which makes it sort of difficult in that regard. You're not just doing only air to air all the time.
Is there actually, what is the demand for air to air? I mean, I know having that as a capability, there's a lot of things in the military where it's like you train for this endlessly and it never actually happens. I mean, I feel like any air to air combat we would have heard about, and I don't remember ever hearing about air to air combat actually going kinetic in the last 15 years. I mean, has to have happened. Maybe Kosovo or something like.
Yeah, Pakistan and India had an event not too long ago, air to air battle. I know that Russia and Ukraine are shooting back and forth. So
okay.
Nothing too crazy though, like you would think about. But yeah, the need for air to air is super high, which the F-35 is super capable at air to air as well. It's obviously a stealth fighter, and it has a loadout of AMRAAMs, and it's we trained air to air a lot. What you would think about is like air to air combat isn't so much like World War II, like dogfighting anymore. It all starts at incredible ranges. You're shooting super far out in order for the missile to hit before you even get close to each other. So it's totally different mindset from a long time ago.
I think that's what I was picturing as like an actual dogfight and we're strafing.
Yeah, that'll happen, but it's not. That's like if you end up in a dogfight, like something went wrong. It's kind of the thought process there.
Okay, gotcha. Well, what makes the 35 community the best?
So we have people from everywhere. So every community comes to the F-35 because it's a new platform. So you got F-16s, F-15s, Strike Eagle dudes, Raptor dudes are coming over in droves because they don't like the community. Like everybody's coming to the F-35, and it's kind of just like, I would say it's a melting pot of fighter cultures, which makes it kind of interesting. And it's also where all the money goes right now. Like we're still making F-35s and we're still growing as a community.
As a program, it's an endless money pit.
Yeah, exactly. I would say as far as to address the issue of like, does it suck? It could be 100%. It could be better. Some of the issues that come out of that is it's a NATO platform, which means other countries get a say. So like Great Britain designed the seat. We don't like the seat. There's stuff about it that just we don't like. There's also 3 variants. So there's the A model, B model, C model. A model's Air Force. It has a gun. B model is the Marine variant that hovers. It's a piece
Just
of
so
crap.
wild to see.
Yeah, it's a useless platform in my opinion. I don't think it should exist. And then there's the C model, which is the Navy like carrier variant, which I think it's awesome because it has bigger wings, so it can endure longer, go higher, stuff like that. But in that as well, you have Air Force, Marines, and Navy all have a say. So it's like it's just this abortion of like everybody trying to like get their thing in the jet that they want. And I think if it would have been a specialized like like the Raptor, like Lockheed Martin designs it for the Air Force, they're the only ones who have a say. It would have been way better. But
Yeah, and it was brilliantly designed by the defense industry in that they've spread the manufacturing and the components, the supply chain over so many congressional constituencies that
yeah,
everyone has a stake in the program surviving. So even though if you had like if this was a corporation, if the U.S. government was a corporation in the sense of it actually had a CFO and shareholders and was responsible, like not metaphorically like we talk about, but actually had to make financial decisions or go bankrupt for real,
yeah,
they would have scrapped this program a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
But because the sunk cost fallacy is almost like is so prevalent with this, because like, well, we've already spent 6 times or 10 times our initial proposed budget on it, so we can't back out now.
Yeah.
And every congressman has a component. It's like one component is made in their factories in their county or whatever, and so they just can't, or in their district. So no, it's not going away. Even though we had on the Navy side the littoral combat ship, the LCS is the same thing, where it's just this massive money pit. It never works, and I think the F-35 is better than LCS. But the LCS ships, they're just always broken. They're not serving their mission, and so I think they're finally getting scrapped as a platform, which is insane. Like when you think of trillions, I believe, of dollars that are just going to go to waste on this failed program. But it is hard to get over the sunk cost fallacy, whether you're an individual trying to recover a stock position or whether you are the U.S. government trying to recover $1.5 trillion of over budget kind of project. So, but yeah, it's interesting, and I know a few guys that fly the Marine 35, and it just blows my mind. Like seeing a fighter jet hover just is preposterous. But you've got to imagine the budget for that element of it alone, kind of like you said, why? Like F-18s are still very capable. Do we need 3 branches with this specific jet? And do we need to? I would imagine that the highest cost, and this is like way oversimplifying, but if you're looking for like the 80-20, like how do we shave the most cost and logistics considerations from this by cutting the least amount of things? I would say getting rid of the hovering feature. Like imagine what it takes to get a hover jet a fighter jet to hover is insane engineering. Of course, the Harrier does it. There's not like this is the first one that does it, but you manufacture the need for the Marines to have these and add an enormous additional element of we have to make one of these 3 models hover. It's like that's so. Like you don't need to be an armchair quarterback with hindsight 2020 to realize this is not going to stay within budget when you that element right there.
No,
so anyway,
it's undue burden on the program, and each jet costs $70 to $80 million a pop. So I mean, you're just talking about. I mean, the Fed can print unlimited money though, so what does it matter? But
well,
it's
that's the thing. Is, the Fed, the Fed prints it, but at this point, I as you know from our conversations and on the podcast, at this point, I believe Congress is the real culprit here, and this is a perfect example because the Fed's going to backstop it, but at this point, like the bargain that the government and the Fed have is like, if you guys overspend, we'll come in and fill the gap, and so that leads to a perpetual downward cycle, like kind of a race to the bottom, if you will, of like, well, if they're going to back us anyways, we're going to keep printing, and so at this point, when you hear Trump talking about we're going to take, instead of cutting the military budget in half, like he said on the campaign trail, we're actually going to increase it by half to $1.5 trillion. Well, that is exactly, it's like everyone's going to blame the Fed for printing $500 billion. It's like, well, they did it because they have to, because we're now in a conundrum where that can't not happen. And so to me, I'm pretty encouraged by what I'm seeing from the new Fed chair so far, but the culprit here is Congress. And this is like the textbook example of why the Fed will have to keep printing money It's not that they have to by their own decision at this point. They have to by the decision of Congress. So I think that everyone should put the pressure on Congress because that ultimately is deficit spending. Anyways,
and it's the creature, it's the symbiotic like creature system where you have, Congress and the Fed, then you have like all these defense contractors. Congress is doing insider trading on these things and making a boatload of money while these people create these systems that are designed to make money during times of conflict and war. So it's just this like ever escalating system of like war and destruction that I just don't know where it's going to end other than like the demise of humanity. So it's kind of like not a good place to be.
Yeah, it's that's a long rabbit hole to go down and something that we like to do regularly. But I do want to just ask one more question between the communities. The aircraft, obviously the 35 is newer than the 18. Like having flown 18s, having flown 35s, what is the difference? Since we in our audience we have pilots in both branches and both fighter communities. What's the general vibe? How would you compare like just the kind of the vibe of a Navy squadron to the vibe of an Air Force squadron? I'll tell you my perspective, which is not first person on the Navy side. My understanding on the Air Force side mainly comes from a glimpse into the flight school there. We have, because we have like the cross-pollination programs where, our API classes, they would pick one guy to send to Enid, Oklahoma to do it. You're going to do primary with the Air Force, then come back.
Yeah.
And then we would have an Air Force guy in our class who was doing primary with the Navy. And the impression I always got was like the Air Force guys loved coming to do primary with the Navy because it was a good time. It was in Pensacola. It's not like they're slacking off. Like the Navy flight school is still, pretty rigorous, but compared to the culture that our Navy guys described in Enid, where it was like so rigid and just like there was no, it sounded like there was no fun in Air Force flight school, whereas it was like we work hard, play hard, kind of seemed like the mentality I got. So your perspective, having been active duty in the squadrons, flying in both, not just that's the flight school perspective, and flight school is different, obviously. So like, what's your perspective, Navy versus Air Force on the ready room and just on the culture?
Yeah, I actually have a pretty good perspective. I think if you just look at people's call signs, that says everything. So on the Navy side, you have call sign Scrody McBoogerballs, House Cat, Boat Bread, Moon Boy, just crazy, Flag Daddy, like craziest call signs. And it's like, that is the picture of like what the Navy is, because they like to have fun. They don't take themselves super seriously. And it's just more of like a loose, like happy almost vibe of just like hanging with the bros, like making fun of each other. Let's keep the rules to a minimum, which is kind of how the vibe is. It's more like the Wild West of like, hey man, like you're a big boy, like you take charge here, and like, if you want to have fun, great. The Air Force is, you got call signs like laser and taser, like that's kind of like, it's like we almost take ourselves too seriously, and we're like so serious, and like we're the best, and we want to be the most tactical, and which is great. It has its time and place, and the Air Force is probably the best. But there, like you said, it's a little bit. It can be seemingly more rigid on the Air Force side, more rules, more restrictions, less fun than the Navy. So.
Yeah,
in that
I remember
aspect,
that with call signs.
I definitely enjoyed flying with the Navy. Like that was a good time.
Yeah, that resonates very much with. I remember at the I-Bar here, which is our O Club in North Island. Got a lot of everyone kind of passes through here. So I remember there was some A10 guys that we were having a beer with and chatting with them, and we were talking about the call signs because they were asking us about our call signs, and I was like, "Do you guys give yourselves your own call signs? Like you choose something cool?" Because it was like you said, it was laser and Iceman, and it was like there was no our call signs are like degrading or embarrassing. It's something that you did. You get no say in it. If you don't like it, it sticks even hard. It sticks even more. It was very much like a kind of a locker room. Like you need to have tough skin. I feel like in both.
Yeah, we had a Tutti Frutti. His last name was Benvenuti, and we literally put him into tears over it. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I mean the cost. It's not even. We have very little. We have very basically no filter on the podcast here. But even still some of the call sign stories. It's like not going to put those out into the
Yeah.
into
It's
the
pretty
ether
bad.
here. But it is that I do definitely remember them being like, yeah, we get our call signs assigned to us, but it's like it's always something cool, you know. And
Yeah.
that just to me is not the purpose of a call sign. It's like
Yeah. Interesting story there. So I was named by the Air Force, but my Navy squadron was there as well. So it was like one of the first ever that I've seen like a joint naming. So obviously the Navy had their perspectives of like wild stuff. The Air Force had their more tame stuff, and we kind of
yeah,
met somewhere in the middle. So my call sign's Bundy because people in my squadron thought I looked like Ted Bundy. So what the Navy was calling me was Teddy One Shirt because I looked like Ted Bundy. And on our deployment to Qatar, we got stuck in Spain for a month. So we were in Rota for literally a month. And I only had one shirt in like my little go bag, which I wore for 30 days straight. So they called me Teddy One Shirt, which was kind of funny, but it ended up getting shortened down to Bundy. So that's kind of the backstory behind that one.
I don't know why, but Bundy, like it just fits. Like you're not a serial killer, but it does. It's like you kind of grow into the call signs there.
Yeah, I think that's kind of true. Just kind of becomes your personality almost. Not that I feel like
Yeah.
I'm Ted Bundy, but
Yeah, I mean, I have everything for so long for over a decade, like, and everyone only ever called me Stasi, and so it was like
yeah,
that's I mean, my LLC is Stasi Capital, like it's just such a part of my identity, and for a long time, it's
yeah,
like nobody called me by anything else. So it does really become not always like some of them don't stick as well, and that was part of kind of the litmus test on our end was it's like if for your friends that people that you trust and feel comfortable with, you make fun of relentlessly, right?
oh
If
yeah,
if
100%.
if you're not getting made fun of, it means you're an outsider. And so the
Yeah,
people that couldn't handle it, I mean, most of them got kind of washed out or kind of flushed out
yep,
over time. But at the end of the day, like it's still the Navy. The bar of getting someone out once you get into flight school, there's like the flying element of it. People are genuinely not safe to fly and they get washed out. But then it's still like the firing process is still pretty tough, even in
yeah,
aviation, just because it's like, well, we need to have 15% females at least, and so you're just going to make
yeah,
it no matter what you do, kind of thing.
yeah,
And we need like two brown guys and we need a gay. It's like that
yeah,
diversity push is still very prevalent in the communities here, and so there was a lot of people where it's just like, I don't think you'd be here if it wasn't for like this is not performance based.
yeah,
But there were also people that met all criteria as a pilot, but their personality didn't really mesh. And so
yeah,
some people were just like, all right, we're just going to kind of kid gloves because I don't want to get a report, harassment report. So we're just going to, kind of play a light on you, and your call sign doesn't really stick, and you never really. That was common too, but overall, I think I agree. If lifestyle wise, I think I'd rather be in a Navy squadron than an Air Force squadron. But maybe
yeah.
flying mission wise, maybe Air Force would be where you'd want to be if you want to be
Yeah, and I think
firefighter.
I enjoy flying the F-35 more. It's single C, a single engine. I liked having two engines in case one failed, but this one's pretty good engine. A lot of thrust, like 40,000 pounds of thrust. I mean, it's slick. I mean, there's nothing on the rails. It's just completely slick, no drag. So I mean, it's just a fun jet to fly. It's super capable. So, and you just got this giant touchscreen display that you can just like alter and do stuff on it. As far as like flying it, I mean, it's like having like a Tesla, like,
Yeah,
aircraft. It's kind of like, kind of cool. And it's come a long
yeah,
way. Like it's better than, like, there was a ton of issues initially, but it's come a long way in like buffing out all those issues. So right now, I think it's in kind of like a happy place, as far as software and hardware and all that good stuff. So um, I do enjoy it. The Growler had a backseater, so depending on who you flew with, if you flew with your bro, like super good time, you could like talk and just kind of smoke a joke, or you could listen to music, which was a feature of the Growler. You could download music onto a file and bring it with you. You could listen to it through your headphones
yeah.
while you're doing like a low level. So that was kind of sweet. But if you flew with somebody you hated, man, it was sucks. Like,
Yeah.
just get out of my
Yeah,
jet.
I've never had a single seater besides the T-34. I've been
Yeah,
with a
yeah.
co-pilot ever since. So,
I
well,
like the single seat.
well, let's pick up in 2020. So you said your Growler tour. So I'm guessing the last year of your Growler tour kind of went off the rails a bit. What was the mandate like for you, and then how did you come to your position on not taking the shot?
Yeah, it started in 2019. I got the flu shot that year. I've always not wanted to get it, but I got it because you have to, like you just don't, you don't fight it because you don't know any better. And that year I got some severe, it's called GBS, Guillain-Barre syndrome, which is kind of like having a stroke, where I got the shot. And then that night I just completely locked up, couldn't walk, forgot how to talk, like all kinds of super scary stuff that happened to me, which I think it has to do with like fluid in the brains, some crazy stuff. So that scared the absolute crap out of me. I was like, that was 100% the shot. I got gaslighted by the ER doctor just into thinking like, no, it couldn't have been that. You just have severe, you have chronic headaches, is what he told me. I said, I don't have headaches. I never get headaches. So
it's so amazing how there's this blind spot where it's like, it could not possibly be this. And so even if all evidence, like any other situation where like cause and effect is so correlated, like such a strong correlation, it's like any doctor, any person in the science, if you're into the scientific method, like you should be like, oh, there's a very strong indicator, not conclusive proof, but there's a very strong indicator that there's a correlation between these two events just due to the time lapse and the fact that you've never had this before. And so for them to so blind, to just like dismiss it. And of course, like I didn't know that you went through that, and you didn't need to tell me what the medical community's response was, because it's certain, doctors are puzzled. This is an unknown. It could, let's never ever look at the thing that it very obviously is. And so that
I'm telling you what it is.
It's like that disconnect there is so strong and so obvious that if at this point, if you don't understand that's like, you should know at this point after going through 2020, everyone's gone through 2020 now. You should know when he said what he just went through immediately the night after taking that shot, no one has any questions as to what the medical community's response is. And it's so preposterous. It's unbelievable. And again, it just, I did as you know, a couple weeks ago with Dr. Paul McHale, and it's like, he is more aligned with us, but saw a lot of things from a first person perspective in the ER that I can't relate to. So it's like, I can't say, like I didn't see those things specifically, but it's just as a whole, the community and one of the things we talked about, kind of the shortcoming of the medical field. It's like, that is such a blind spot that you won't consider. It's like, how could you not make that? How is that not your first assumption? And then if you strongly believe that it's not, we run tests to verify that. But of course, the running of tests is prohibited. The implementation of the scientific method in an event like that is prohibited by the medical community.
It's already been determined that vaccines are safe and effective, so we're going to rule that out. I mean, I think they could take a lesson from the fighter pilot community as far as our debriefs go, as far as how we look at evidence. We take a problem. So in this case, the problem would be, why did I have a stroke? And then we take contributing factors. So we're going to take every single thing that it possibly could have been. So in this case, got the flu shot, had a bad night's sleep. I don't know. You could name them all. And then you take the primary contributing factor, which would probably be, hey, I got a flu shot the night before. And then now we have a root cause. And we talk about what the root cause is, and then we provide a fix. So I just don't think that process is happening. I don't think that they're actually taking evidence using the scientific method. And I think that they're just throwing their Hippocratic oath out the window, because if they were taking my health or anyone's health seriously to do no harm, then they would take all evidence as credibly as any other evidence, regardless of the pressure from pharmaceutical industries and kickbacks from insurance and all the other stuff that they get from vaccines. That wouldn't be their number one priority, but it seems like that's what it is keeping this narrative. And that's shots don't do anything bad.
That's one element of it. There's the element of you, the human, who had an adverse reaction. You have a very obvious severe medical condition, whatever the cause is, right? On the personal side, like, we want to know what caused this because we want you to be healthy, right? But even more than that, that would apply to anyone. That would apply to my neighbor as much as you, right? Yeah. But where it really gets insidious and where the real complete failure is, it's like if my neighbor does that same thing, takes the flu shot, has those symptoms, and goes down to the clinic here on Coronado, like, the doctor owes the same duty of care that your doctor owed to you, and let's try to figure out what this is, and let's be open to considering evidence, particularly the thing that's the one anomaly in your life, the thing you don't do every day, and all the other days that you don't get strokes, right? Like, what's the one correlating factor? Like, dig into that. That's what they owe my neighbor. That's what they would owe me. That's what they owe you, everyone, right? But then there's another element that makes it so much more severe. The failure so much more severe is that this is your flight doc saying this, and you are taking a $70 million aircraft that the Air Force owns, and like, if you have a stroke, like you would have a hard time getting life insurance, right? Let alone, the reason why you would have a hard time getting life insurance is because the probability of you getting another stroke is higher if you've had them in the past. And so, like, just actuarially speaking, that should be a red flag.
Yeah.
Let alone to say you're probably fine. We're not going to look into this. You just have headaches. Go fly a $70 million fighter jet. Like, that. I mean, if I'm a commanding officer listening to this somehow, which they're not going to, but if I were like senior in the Air Force, I would be like, wait a second, find that guy's squadron, find this exact same flight doc, and let's court-martial him right now, because that's a failure. That's an absolute failure to not investigate this. Like, did they just let you fly or what? Like,
so this was an ER doc who wrote the report. So I actually went to the ER out in town.
Okay.
The flight doc, obviously, I don't think he really had much of an opinion, and he wasn't willing to say that it was the flu shot. He just kind of like nodded his head and was like, okay, yeah. So this was an ER doc, so probably protected from all this. Okay. Most certainly the vaccine manufacturer is completely protected from any injuries. But yeah, I went back to flying within a couple of weeks after that. Yeah.
So preposterous.
Okay, so that's one aspect. In 2020 is when all the stuff started happening. It actually was almost coincident with us going to Misawa. Absolute madness. Like, I wasn't fully, I guess, red-pilled yet. Obviously, like, I didn't like vaccines. I had some knowledge, but not much. But I just knew from the beginning, I was like, this is stupid. All the masks, everybody freaking out about every stupid thing. They can't drink out of the water fountain. No more making popcorn in the ready room. And then we had this COVID czar guy who's just like a captain or a lieutenant in the Navy, who's just all of a sudden he's appointed by the skipper. This is the authority now. This O3 is all of a sudden he's the COVID czar. He's given his power by the commander to do whatever he wants. So he comes in, we're making popcorn. He starts ripping it out of the popcorn machine and dumping it in the trash and like yelling at everybody and scolding everyone that we don't care and we're going to kill people. And it's just like, dude, this is insane. Like, this is such BS, man. So it kind of started there.
To that guy and tell him he just should jump off a bridge.
And then we go to Misawa. We have to quarantine in our room for 2 weeks. So everyone's trapped in the rooms for 2 weeks. You can't leave your room, or you get another 2 weeks, which ended up happening to a master sergeant or a chief master. He comes out after 2 weeks and you get the little test, which they shove down your nose, which I wish I wouldn't have taken because apparently those have some interesting side effects potentially. But they test him and he pops positive for COVID. So he's in his room for 4 weeks, not able to leave. The only food you can get is Subway, Pizza Hut, and like Popeyes. The most unhealthy, like awful thing you could do to a human being is isolate them and feed them garbage food. Like, I mean, health, it's just preposterous and hilarious that they're saying that this was like for our benefit and for our health. Yeah. Like, it's just wild, man. That was just that was like the end of my career. And I fought that super hard. I never wore a mask like above my nose. I would always have it below. I would be getting yelled at for that. I would pull it up and then put it right back down. The shot hadn't come out yet, but there was people in my squadron who were like, I'm going to get it as soon as it comes out. I want that shot. Like they wanted it. They were going to volunteer to test it. Like absolutely bonkers, man.
Dude, the world, it became idiocracy. Like it's so popular. Like, you can't tell these stories with a straight face, and yet there's just this fascinating total disconnect where people like still believe that, putting a bandana or like a ski gaiter around your neck and covering your mouth, like when you went into a restaurant and you sit down, like people still think that there was merit to that, and there was no merit to any of it. It was all
people just from time to time.
Yeah, it was just science. It was just theater. Like it was a mockery of the scientific method, and it was all just theater and acting. During the whole, I just remember being like, they just said that the masks don't do anything. Then they said they do, and now they say they don't again. They just said that the PCR tests are 99% false positives. Now they're saying we have to test. Like, they've lost their credibility. How do you assign any credibility to any of this? So let's just not do any of it. And it was like so dumbfounding at the time, more angering at the time. Now I'm dumbfounded and laugh at it because it's so stupid, and it should bring up a sense of deep shame if you participated in this. And it's okay. Like everyone participated to some degree. A lot of people just
your clown face on.
Yeah, like how do how do I navigate in society without causing an argument? It's like, all right, just path of least resistance. I'm going to do the minimum. Some people were just like aggressive, confrontational against it, and then obviously a huge swath was just totally compliant. And to the degree that you were compliant with this, I think you should feel shame, and you should work on that. And like next time that they do something like this, they have no credibility. So it's like next time it's like, I don't want to hear, well, just we got to be safe. Like, we don't know what this is. It's like, no. They don't get a say. They're done.
Right.
They're done with credibility.
They lost
and they can
all their
never,
credibility.
Yeah, and it's irrecoverable. Like, it would have to be an entirely. I mean, I don't even know what it would take for me to ever give a shred of consideration for the CDC.
Yeah. I mean, it would be like a spouse cheating on their spouse like 4 or 5 times, maybe 10 times, and then being like, okay, well, we're going to try to work on this and recover the trust. Like, you can't. You just can't. So, it's just wild to me. Like, people were 100% more outraged over somebody not wearing a mask in a store than like the Epstein file. It's crazy. And there's so many theories why or how it happened. And it's, obviously it just seemed like it was a giant like test on humanity of some kind, like at some high level.
I mean, I feel like I feel like I wouldn't change it as infuriating as it is. There's elements of it that still, are hard to reckon with socially, even personally stuff. Like I still get sad about the career. Like we live on 3rd Street, which goes right to the air station here. And I still every day, 10,000 people drive onto the base. And it's like, I'm glad I'm not in the Navy anymore, but I do I see the guys driving flight stuff. I'm still sad about like that element of, that career, everything, all that's over. So like, there's still some kind of like, it's not nothing, but I would never change any of it, and I wouldn't take any of it back, because like what it's allowed us to see and position our kids. It's like I would have never been the solid like steel wall between my children and the medical industry that my wife and I are right now, had it not been for this experience. And thank God for us. Had this happened, had this all happened a couple years later, we would have gone through the entire standard medical procedure, and our daughters would be, dumbed down by like being a part of all of these systems. And so I thank God it happened the way it did, but it's still just, it's infuriating, it's comical, it's just it's a sad reflection of society. But I think all you can do is just level up from it.
Yeah, I think about that a lot, and I really think it was like a Matrix red pill moment for a lot of people. Of like, it took that level of insanity to wake people up, and some people took the red pill and we're awake now. We're looking into things like never before. We're actually researching, studying, not trusting the media, the science, and other people just went further into sleep. It seems like, and it just seems like a divergence of culture now, where you have 2 sides and there's no meeting in the middle. So which is better to have than just this like false sense of, hey, we can all just get along,
Yeah, we're all Americans. We all think the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, no,
Yeah.
No, I don't think.
But yeah, going into that, so that was madness. I ended that in 2020, and then went to squadron officer school online because it was, COVID was happening. And then I went to the TX, it was a transition course into the F-35 at Luke in 2021. COVID was still a thing, so we still had to wear masks, all that stuff, but the vaccine still wasn't out. So that was like my saving grace was I made it all the way through that course without the vaccine mandate, which I think if it would have come out then, I probably would have just gotten kicked out. But since I made it through and there was more investment, and now I go to a combat squadron, which is kind of in Alaska. So I go to Eielson Air Force Base next, which is in Fairbanks, Alaska. And I'm kind of more shielded from a lot of this stuff. I ended up getting like whatever COVID was, I got it for like a month. I lost my taste and smell for about 2 months, which was kind of crazy. It just felt kind of terrible, but it wasn't that bad. Get to Eielson, and that's when the vaccine becomes now a mandate from Lloyd Austin. God rest his soul. I guess he's still alive.
It was Ash Carter that died.
Oh, was it Ash Carter? Yeah, yeah. Terry Adirum's another name I remember.
Yeah.
Which she said it was interchangeable. But yeah, we won't talk about all that. But I get the mandate. My commander's like, hey, I'm ordering you to get the shot. And I said, okay, what are my options? He's like, well, you know, you got the Moderna, you got the Pfizer. J&J is not as bad. You know, you can just get 2 of those and you'd probably be good. So I was actually considering the J&J for some time because I was like, I don't want to lose my career. I don't want to stop flying. I don't remember what it was the bar chat. There was a specific chat that I was added to with other like-minded individuals. And I was exposed to way more information than I had, which was able to, I met you in there. I met my current wife in there. A lot of other good people that I met.
Only wife, we should say.
My only wife. She's my wife right now, and she always will be. Yeah, I met a lot of good people in there. I've actually met a lot of people in real life, which has been cool. But that was like the turning point of like, oh yeah, for sure, I'm not getting this. There's things I can do to fight this. Like I didn't know about the religious accommodation request. So that's kind of saved me, to be honest. Like I was on the fence, and like that group was like where it kind of turned for me, and I started shifting my mindset at that point. So I do the religious accommodation request, comes back denied. I do the appeal, comes back denied. Okay, now I get an LOR. I have to come into my commander's office, stand at attention while he reads me this stupid LOR, which I could tell it was just the most limp-wristed, like weak, no conviction behind his words. Like he was doing it because he had to, but it's just like, okay, I understand you don't want to do this, but like if you were a real man, like you just wouldn't do it. Like you would protect me and help me. So I get 2 of those. I fight them. And then I'm at the point where they give me a memorandum to take my flight pay. My name's misspelled on every single line where it says my name. And I'm like, what is this? My name isn't even spelled right. Like, who wrote this? It's just madness. They're about to take my flight pay. And I was like, you can't do that. I was grounded for about 3 months or so. I wasn't flying. And then July comes around and the federal injunction happens. And then my commander's like, yeah, your LORs are gone. You're good to go. I'm like, okay. I just completely gaslit. Like, it's all gone now. Like, nothing happened. Well, I just went through some of the worst months of my life. You know, in winter in Alaska, there's no sun. It's just dark all the time. It's minus 40 degrees. I'm about to get kicked out of the Air Force. I'm ostracized. I can't fly. Like, it was awful. And I wasn't married at the time. I was just single. So yeah, it was a rough time in my life for sure. Cause I'm like, what am I going to do next? But I come out the other side. And then the good part of this is I met Cassidy. So she started talking to me in October of 2021. And then we actually met up in person in Lake Tahoe, January of 2022. So skied, snowboarded, and got to know each other. And then we literally got married. So funny date, 2/22/22. So February 22nd, 2022. We got married. And then she was pregnant with our firstborn, Atlas, in April. So about 2 months later. Pretty quick there. We were like in our 30s. So almost 30. So it's like, let's just get started. But yeah, to kind of close that loop. So right now I have he's 3.5, Atlas, 3.5-year-old boy. And then we got dealt the lottery ticket of twins. So they're 1.5-year-old boy, girl twins, Remy and Liam. And they're just, man, they're full of life, man. A lot of fun, huge challenge. Balancing work and life is way more difficult now because my number one priority is my family and spending as much time as I can with them, like not missing their young years. helping out my wife, like all that stuff is like what I think about the most. So it makes it challenging. Like when I'm at work, I'm thinking, how can I get home the fastest? So it definitely takes a play into that. And it also leads into the discussion on IBC of like why I started it in the first place.
Yeah. Yep. And so, yeah, and that chat, that group that we met in has been a lifeline for so many of us. And that's where I got exposed to all these ideas as well. And it was from reaching out to an old commanding officer who I knew was anti-vax from back in the day, but I thought it was crazy but never really thought about it. Reached out to him and I was like, hey, I'm just throwing a Hail Mary here because I don't know what to do. Me and my buddy are the only ones we know that are fighting this. Like, what do we do? And he introduced us to this group, which became still a pretty tight network today. But Cassidy was in the group because she was a pilot as well. And this was a military pilot group, right? So she was military, Army helicopter pilot?
Yeah, she was Army Chinook mechanic initially. So worked on Chinooks in the Army. And then she wanted to fly it. And then, so she transitioned to be a warrant officer. Ended up being a warrant officer 3. Flew the Chinook for about 10 years, which is super awesome helicopter. Just one of the coolest helicopters I think there is. Just giant, can carry like so much weight. I think she misses it a lot from time to time because it was just such an awesome career. Getting to fly that thing. But yeah, she did that for so she was in the Army for 13 years total. And then she decided, I'm going to go green to blue, which means Army to Air Force. She was like, well, I flew the biggest helicopter, which might be debatable. The Marine helicopter, I think, is a little bit bigger, but the biggest Army helicopter.
What is it? 53.
It's the CH-53. I'm going to fly the biggest airplane now. So she got hired by Travis Air Force Base Reserve Unit, the C-5 unit. So she was hired, fully hired, ready to go. She went to Columbus for pilot training, which is where she was when we started talking. I think she might have done some academics, but then COVID happened and got turned off. She didn't go back through. It was just super easy for them to dispense of her because, she was in pilot training. It was easy to get rid of her. And she was going through the same thing I was, fighting it, doing the religious accommodation request, all that stuff to avoid getting it. And she never got it. I never got it. So we're purebloods in that sense. But it was a bit of a challenge there because she was in Columbus. I'm in Alaska. We meet, go to Tahoe, ski, and then we're like, oh, we really like each other. Like we're obviously like-minded, have the same goals. So we're like, we're just going to make it happen. And then when she got pregnant was when she was like, well, I'm just going to get out because she had the option to get out. So she went into the inactive ready reserve and then just moved up to Alaska with me to have, our baby, which all of our babies, all home births, we had them in Reno. She had a house there from prior life there. All of them born in a tub and like a birthing tub, or whatever you call it, in the bedroom, and I'd caught them as they came out. Super, that would have never happened. That would have been insane to me. But just everything leading up to that moment was preparing us to do everything natural in the right way and the way God intended. So it was just, I wouldn't change a thing.
17 Bundy, that's not even, that's not on the
you're gonna be catching your kid in a tub in the in the bedroom.
It's crazy. So, and so she's out now, full-time mom and doing.
Yep, full-time mom, 3 kids. It's challenging, but obviously raising kids is I would say one of the highest callings there is. There's nothing more important than raising kids, and just being a full-time mom. Being a dad, being a mom. What's more important than that? There's nothing.
That's why we're doing that's why we're doing IBC. That's why we're working and doing careers that you want to be at home. That tells you a lot. It's like you're at work and you want to be home. You don't want to be missing that time. So what could be more important than that? So on that note, what obviously through our mutual group there and Brian and I talking about IBC, I know how you came across IBC, but what about it? what was your research process like? And I mean, of course, I was there with you, like doing these policies and stuff, so I know the conversations we had. But from your perspective, what was the appeal of it? What were the hesitations? What was the learning process like getting to now where you have a policy on every member of your family and are actively using and implementing this strategy?
Yeah, so just going hand in hand with the radical mindset shift from COVID to 2023 is when I started my first policy. So December 2023, everything was just building and building of like, wow, this is lies. And then I start looking into finances. And I start listening to you guys. Brian had a presentation he shared of like what IBC is. I initially, when I heard it, I was like, yeah, this is like a Ponzi scheme or something. Like these guys are grifters. I don't know what this is. Like, just like some people have the same, mindset there. But I reached out to Brian and I was like, this is kind of interesting. I'm interested in learning more. So he sent me Become Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash, which I read, and I was like, whoa, I'm doing things wrong. Like it's protect, save, grow. Like you talk about, like you need to be your own bank. You need to take control of your own finances. Like you can't just give your money to the government for 30, 40 years and then like it's doing nothing for you that entire time versus employing it in your own system, being your own bank, using it to invest, all that stuff. So, and then just thinking about like Cassidy was 7 months due at the time, 8 months due with our son. So I'm thinking long-term now, like, what do I want to leave behind for my wife, my kids? What do I want to instill in them? So I'm thinking about all these things, and IBC just fits that perfectly of just taking control of your finances. Like me controlling them versus someone else. So started that policy in 2023. I got one on Atlas a couple months after he was born. I have a convertible term on Cassidy, which will eventually convert to whole life. And then I have 2 more policies on my on the twins as well. So we all have whole life, except for my wife, but she'll get it eventually. And then kind of what you talk about a lot is the human life value. How much money would I make by the time I'm 65 or whatever notional age? I think it's 65 is kind of what it's calculated with. And it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of money. And that doesn't even account for inflation. So death benefit for me is like that protection of if I die in a plane crash, which has been happening a lot lately. And I think about it, like if I die in a plane crash, which could happen, I'm not saying
35
like
last week,
but it could happen. What am I leaving behind? What situation am I leaving for my wife and kids? So there is that peace in knowing like she's going to be covered. She won't have to start a GroupMe and scramble. Sorry, not GroupMe, GoFundMe or a Give Send Go. Like, hey, we need money right now. Like, what are we going to do? There will be time, years of time that they'll be able to figure it out. So that provides me with peace. It provides her with peace. And it just lowers stress levels, which allows you to live longer anyway. So I think just having that stress gone is nice, for sure.
So what were some of the hesitations? I mean, obviously, like, I think people, when there's something that's new, when there's something that's different than max out your 401k and then invest in index funds, when there's anything other than that advice, our default is like, oh, this must be a scam, right? And I think that's from a lot of psychological targeting. And so if you don't put thought into it, people are like, oh yeah, is that a Ponzi scheme? And then you start thinking like, well, it doesn't even make sense because it's my role is to facilitate a 2-party contract between you and the insurance carrier, and that piece of paper is bound by contract law and obligates performance on the company. There's no requirement for anyone else to have a policy for yours to be legally enforceable by U.S. contract law with the company that you do business with, right? So like that's like when people say that, which I don't really hear much anymore. When people do say that, I'm like, well, either you don't understand what this is or you don't know what a Ponzi scheme is. And I think that's like people's blanket assumption for something I don't understand in the financial world. But as far as actual like hesitations and things that either delayed implementation or the conversations we have, like what are the paradigm things that you had to to kind of break in order to rethink your thinking, so to speak?
Yeah, I think the biggest hurdle for me was just how much it costs, like the premium. Like, wow, this is a lot of premium to pay for life insurance. Which on face value, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's a lot, but it's what you're paying for. You know, it's an entire life contract, which is completely unique to other. We're like convertible term, it's gone in 30 years, and then you have to requalify, and it becomes unaffordable at that point. Versus being locked in for life and never having to worry about it. You always have money that's there that grows over time that will get passed to your wife and kids if you die. So that's part of the cost of the premium, is like the insurance company's on the hook for your entire life. So there has to be a cost associated with that. And then the PUA was like, well, now I'm already paying a large amount for base premium, which I find out over time, it's like investing in a business. It takes 4 to 5 years, and then all of a sudden that base premium starts to generate dollars on its own. So there's that aspect of it. And then there's the PUA. It's like, dude, now you're going to take way more money and put that in as well. It's like, how can I afford this? Like, I'm spending 3/4 of my entire paycheck on this life insurance policy. So it was like, that was a hard thing to get across, was like, wow, I'm putting all my money into this basically. But then I think it's realizing that you're not just spending money. It's going into a cash savings asset basically. And being able to use that money and being able to use it in 2 places at once, like the benefits heavily outweigh any downside of. I think the only thing that like keep people from doing it is like they just don't have enough money to do it, or they don't have consistent income. So I think there is some barriers to entry there. Like, not everybody can do it.
I find the main barrier to entry is discipline and behavior, and then knowledge and understanding. Because if you have $5,000 a year or $50,000 a year, percentage-wise, mechanically, the policy can be structured exactly the same, just on a scaled-down version, right? So you can basically take you can set the size of it, and it scales, obviously, but the ratio of base to PUA, for instance, like you can have the same, in terms of dollar in, dollar out performance, you could have the same in a $5,000 a year policy or a $50,000 a year policy.
Yeah.
So it's not that like certain incomes can't do it necessarily, but it takes understanding of how to structure it. And so if someone's like, I can only do 5,000 a year, well then it would not be in their interest for them to do a $5,000 base policy, right? It would be in their interest to do maybe a $1,000 base policy and $4,000 at PUA, and that kind of conversation is like, as long as we structure it to the individual, but more important is their understanding, their discipline, their cash flow, like their spending habits, because we don't often have someone that we're not going to set a policy up for you. This doesn't make sense, because typically, since we don't advertise besides, like I guess the podcast, but like people that get on our calendar have an interest in this and already have some conviction and understanding, or want to gain the understanding. And so we kind of have a filtering mechanism in and of itself there, but it's that education piece. It's like if we just threw out a Facebook ad and got 500 people that sign up for a call, that would probably be pretty terrible, because it'd be a huge use of time, and people that are just kind of like, oh, interesting, I could make more money. Like, this is an investment thing or whatever, like that education piece is like, we want people that actually are down the learning path. And once you're down the learning path, then it shifts your mindset. Like you said about, I'm not just spending money here. When I move money to a savings account, I don't tell my wife I just spent money. I moved money into the savings vehicle. And so it is certainly at first glance, it's like, well, I spend this amount per month on my car, this amount a month on my cell phone, this amount a month on my life insurance. You're like, whoa, that's absurd. What do you mean? And that at first glance, I totally understand that, but it just takes that knowledge there. And that's where, people are either in the same way that it blows my mind to see someone still with a mass day. I'm like, I'm so eager to, I would love to just explore and be a fly on the wall in your stupid brain. But like, it's so foreign to me that someone doesn't want to think through what this decision they're making. in the same way, I'm like, well, don't you want to learn if there's something more? But if they don't, like, I'm not gonna spin my wheels trying to convince someone, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, and I view it as like every dollar I put in there is safe from the IRS. So I'm like, I want to get as much of my money in there as I possibly can because I don't want the IRS touching a cent of my money. So in that aspect, even just that aspect, like the tax sheltered status, it's like, man, I'm trying to get as much as I can in there.
so what have you been
And that's
doing with
one
your
of the,
policy
yeah. So
or policy
I have a
system?
pretty large policy now. Like I have a very large amount of, cash value. I was not very large, but it's significant because I've been doing it for 3 years and I put a ton of PUA in there. So over the years, you guys introduced me to RP Capital, which is now Lineage. They have like, quote, they don't like the term, but it's like turnkey rental properties. So I bought 4 of those within a year with my policy loans. So take out a policy loan, invest in a rental property. Now it's earning money in 2 places because the money doesn't actually come out of the cash value. It's still in there generating 4 to 5% a year, while the rental properties in the rental property earning maybe 10 to 13%. So, I mean, that's a total of 17% if you just want to put numbers on it, which is somewhat beating inflation, which is nice.
And those are obviously for the smart boys in comment section. Like, those are imperfect numbers, right? The IRR of a life insurance policy is not the same way that we calculate a market return on a principal.
Yeah.
Like, it's different, but conceptually, yeah. Like you can say you can generally cite the amount of return in the cash value of a policy. Of course, it's scaled, like all these different caveats. So all caveats necessary. Yes, you're way outpacing inflation and the cost of the interest on the policy loan.
Yeah. And I get a dividend check every year from the insurance company, and it continues to go up every year. It's not a ton. Like my last check was a little over $1,000, so it's like it's something, but it continues to grow over time as you put more money into it. So in 20 years, it will be not insignificant for sure. So that'll be nice. That is almost a guarantee part of it.
Yeah, and the company that we use with your policy goes very heavy on the guaranteed side, and at the expense of the dividends, because there's no deals in life insurance, so it's all a trade. And so on that, another policy holder with the exact same annual premium and structure in a different company might get a 10,000 dividend, but their starting point, the initial face amount, like the guaranteed side of it, is dialed down. And so I kind of equate it to like, if you have 2 runners that are going to be tied in 30 years, but one of them starts ahead and takes small steps, that's what you have. The other one starts behind, takes large leaps, and they meet in 30. That's sort of the analogy here. So it's like, it's hard to, even across companies, it's hard to do an apples to apples comparison.
Yeah. And I prioritize the death benefit just because I have 3 kids, a wife. I want that to be beefed up as much as it can be. And the dividend will catch up. I'm using my cash value for other things that are making way more than the dividends anyway. Like I talked about, a bunch of rental properties. And then recently we got into the options trading game, which Brian kind of introduced us to, which has been killing. It has its ups and downs, but I mean, overall, just kind of just prints money if you do it correctly. So I just take a policy loan, put that into my trading account, trade with it, and then I'm just making returns on both sides there, and I just pay back the loan. I pay a little bit more than the interest, but I'm paying it back just a little bit at a time because I'm not in a rush to pay it off. So I'm just maximizing my cash flow is essentially what I'm doing with that. So all in all, I have an entire system now, whereas before I had a 401k, TSP, which I maxed out every year. Like I was doing pretty good with that. Like I had decent returns with it on good years. Obviously, on some years it was terrible, but overall it grew pretty significantly. And then I had a Roth IRA through Vanguard that I maxed out every year as well. That was that was the things I did. And then I kind of like got into stock buying, and I did terrible at it and lost a bunch of money. So my financial system was like, I didn't even have term life insurance. So like it wasn't even up to the par of Dave Ramsey stuff. Like I'm maxing out my 401k or my TSP, maxing out my IRA, Dave Ramsey would pat me on the back and tell me I'm doing a good job. No debt, like to speak of at all. Like I'm saving. I have an emergency fund. So all these things I'm doing. So financially, I'm sound. I'm not getting into debt. I'm not racking up credit card bills. So as far as that goes, like people would say, yeah, you're good with money. But there was an entirely different world that I just didn't know about, of what banks and the wealthy do that I just wasn't doing. I'm part of the rat race, basically, like the basic financial advice they give to everybody, that isn't going to make you rich is kind of what I'm doing. Like hoping to have enough to retire with, 4 to 7% of my paycheck, or 4 to 7% of my wealth taken every year, all that stuff that you talk about. Like,
yeah. I mean, right now, the market's
doing it
straight
for
up
me.
last couple of years, right? And so people that are in, like 401k balances are looking good. But the thing is, like, when you see a market just melt up like this, it looks good on that number. Right now, at our age, it doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything for us, right? But it looks pretty good in retirement. But the thing is,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean you're less stressed. It's like, this is really good, but could this come down? Will it come down? Yeah, it will. Will it go back up? Probably, most likely. But it's the certainty and the ability to just be like, we don't need this number to be at any specific amount. Like, this is a great, nice to have thing, and in the order of operations, this is third, but this is a great buffer, right? But this is not the actual, foundation itself, and that gets into the gap that, like, you're describing kind of like the self-management style, which is sort of a do-it-yourself version of the CFP version. Because if you had a CFP, you'd be doing the things, right? You probably would have some term insurance. But
yeah, which I didn't.
And that right there, that gap between, like, what the paradigms and the philosophy that we kind of talk through and try to convey, and the CFP standard, right, Retirement Inc. kind of thing. It's like there's a big gap between those two, almost unrecognizable difference. Like when I tell people what I pay in whole life premium, if it's someone who's financially savvy in the other world, it's like incomprehensible, right? It just doesn't compute at all, right? We both have people in our lives where if you say what you pay in whole life premium, brain melts.
Quick, yeah.
And so, that's very real, and there's a large gap there. But when you understand how these things work together symbiotically, like, you're not going to beat the market with your emergency, and that's not the point of it. And also, like, I'm not trying to beat the market with my emergency fund because I need an emergency fund. I want to have dollars that are assigned for this role, and they're not going to melt up with the rest of the market. I want some melt up. I want that growth there, but how do we bridge that? And so that's just the kind of the premise for Remnant Frontier, and where I want to position it as, like, if over on this end is the whole life IBC, this paradigm, and over here is your Retirement Inc. / the do-it-yourselfers like you. I don't want to be with Remnant Frontier. I want it to be in the middle that can reach both sides, rather than just we over on here on this side we offer IBC and these strategies. Become your own banker, understand what the Federal Reserve is, like this element of maybe like red pill finance, and then over here we've got your conventional CFP. Like, it's not going to be the two things we're offering. It's like I want kind of like a CFP model that piggybacks on what we do over here. So anyways.
Yeah, and like just to tie it all together, like where I'm at now, I have the IBC, which is like the underpinning of everything, like the foundation, the rental properties, the options, and then just buying up Bitcoin, gold, silver, like just to have multiple diversifications there.
Yeah.
So, and then the tax strategist as well, which kind of helps out a lot with the tax portion of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great, like, when all the components of the orchestra are playing together, like it's pretty nice to see. It's nice to not, in the last, if you're fully market exposed right now and your main foundation is your 401k, probably it's been a pretty rough 3 months, for instance, but it's been a phenomenal 2026, and it's been an even better, say, 23 to 26, right? And so it's like these ups and downs, and there's those things are great, but it's also like it's unsettling. It's like you're riding the tiger there. So there's some balance. But well, I know I've held you longer than we planned on. So anything else as far as like post military? What do the next couple of years look like for you?
Yeah, so I'm finishing up my assignment here at Nellis in Nevada, Las Vegas, within the next year. So I'm on the assignment cycle. My 10-year commitment is up in 2027, so May 2027. So I have the potential to get out or to stay in if I want to. Thinking about maybe going to Florida to be an instructor. That could be a possibility. Or trying to get like a sim job, like civilian sim job in like Hawaii, Florida, something like that. Maybe join the reserves, maybe join the guard. Nice thing about those is like they have to like you and hire you. So usually it's full of people who are not, like you talked about, the personalities that suck.
Yeah, they're likable and hireable.
Yeah, so we'll see. We're kind of ready to get out of Vegas. It's too hot, man. Not much to do in the summer. So
yeah. And homeschooling the kids. That's the plan.
I mean, he's 3, so we're not there yet, but that is the plan. Homeschool. Do a lot of vacations. We do a lot of vacations. Going to like Hawaii, going to the beach, just traveling. Okay.
Yeah. You gotta come out to Coronado again. I know we.
Yeah, we're gonna make it out there again. Get out of the heat.
Yeah. Well, it'll be much cooler here, no matter when it is.
Yeah.
So. All right, man. Well, I
kid
see you got
has
a pal here, so yeah, we'll let you go. Thanks for spending some time with us and being our first client interview.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
All right, man. We'll talk to everyone next week. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to Remnant Finance. If you found any value at all in this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend.
Remember, true financial freedom comes from taking control of your personal economy and breaking free from the status quo. So stop being a passenger in your family's financial future.
Boldly take back control of your wealth. Until next time,
This is Brian and Hans signing off.